Okay, three, two, one. Hey guys, this is Jerry. So I'm here with Dawn, and she has her own brand, her own coaching service called the Well-Grounded Spirit. And it's funny how we met because she kind of has a doppelganger. Have you met that doppelganger finally?
I haven't actually. I still have not, but I will.
Yeah.
One day maybe you should
stumble on.
introduce us, right?
Next time I see the dog. So yeah, what happened was she has a doppelganger that has this dog that wanders around by himself. And one time I saw the dog wandering around, and then I was like, hey, doggy, and then Dawn walked by. I'm like, oh, hey, did you see your dog? And Dawn's like, I don't have a dog. And I was like, oh, you have a doppelganger. So that's how we met. And it actually reminds me of when I was in, I think it was preschool or kindergarten in Chicago, I had the same exact thing happen. There was a guy, he had a dog, another guy who kind of looked like him, and then I saw him, I'm like, where's your dog? He's like, I don't have a dog. And I'm like, I must have facial recognition deficiencies when it comes to like Caucasians or something.
It could very well be the case,
Yeah.
Absolutely, and what's more is you just, you see a friendly dog, you see a friendly person that feels like the same person, and maybe you're just kind of tying those two together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They say sometimes when you go to a shelter, the dog chooses you. You don't choose the dog, right?
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't have a dog, I have a kitty, but sometimes kitties will do the same thing as well.
Makes sense. Kitties are also much more possessive. So.
Absolutely. My kitty will actually at times sit on the edge of the bed when I'm sleeping and guard me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of lovely though. It's like, oh, she's always looking out.
Exactly.
She doesn't just come when she wants food.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Wow. So, Dawn, tell me about the Well-Grounded Spirit. How did you decide to become a life coach? How did you decide to just do all this stuff?
Absolutely. I think at some point in your life, when people are coming to you for advice all the time and you're like, oh, everyone's asking me questions and seems to be making changes after I'm giving them advice. And so I paid attention to this over time, and also having had, a lot of interesting things come up in my life where there was a lot of challenges that I really had to find a method for getting through those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you have a life that can give you a lot of ups and downs, you can either really get, maybe spiraled out by that, or you can learn a lot from it. And so all of these things really developed into my coaching practice. But I've studied so many things, and so it wasn't just I was like, hey, I'm a life coach, I should charge people money, There's definitely a history behind that of things that I have studied as well.
I see. So it fit perfectly for you because your personal experience and the things you studied, so together it kind of worked well for what you wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm driven by personal growth, and I see how much it's improved my life, and I always want to help people. And I figure, okay, so if I see that these things have helped me, and people come to me for advice naturally, then why don't I start to give all of that experience, a little more structure, and then I'm able to help people in a very structured way where I can see quantified results.
Okay. So when people used to come to you advice before you decided to go for it, what were some things they asked you about?
Well, people will ask me about relationship advice all the time. And now I still get that, of course. It's like, oh, I'm having to deal with this thing, XYZ thing, with relationships. A lot of times in relationships, I see a lot of issues around communication. Right?
Yep.
Communication, they're taking it a certain way. Oh, this person, she always says this, or he says it like this, and then I this. So I see people getting stuck in these loops, There are these loops where they hear something, they take it a certain way, and then they react.
I see.
So one of the things that, whether that's in, an intimate relationship, a familial relationship, a boss and, subordinate relationship, communication is a big one in my work, and how we perceive. And so in that, how we perceive, what I help people do is I teach them how to meditate.
Oh, interesting. So what kind of meditation do you teach them? Is it a variety based on their needs?
Well, let's see. So about 13 years ago, I was in a symposium with the Dalai Lama and a bunch of neuroscientists. Right? Ding!
Ding. Exactly.
So what I learned from the pros was there is maybe a particular way to meditate versus other ways that people sometimes think they're meditating, but they're really not getting the same cognitive benefits.
Oh, wow.
So here's the thing. I don't want to disappoint anyone who is doing a guided meditation or other types of meditations, but the science shows there are particular types of meditations that definitely have a much different impact on the vagus nerve, which is, right? Yeah, communicating to the heart, communicating with the brain, really affects the microbiome in the gut, and also the prefrontal cortex. So doing a guided meditation will not help you in the same way that a mantra-oriented meditation will help you. Does that make sense?
So that's the key, mantra-oriented.
Absolutely. You want to go for the mantra because when you are leading or guiding your own meditation, it makes a much different neurological impact on the brain.
Oh.
When you're listening, you're still in a way reacting. It's a different, it can still calm you, but you're reliant on an external source.
Oh, I see.
Right? So with that, I encourage all of my clients to push through the difficulties people find around self-guided meditations or mantra-oriented meditations.
So difficult, man.
Right?
Like, some people fall asleep. Me, personally, my mind wanders, and then I'm like, oh, whoa, where was I going?
Right.
Yeah,
what was happening?
What was happening? Or something just like, I don't see the purpose of this. I'm going to do 2 more seconds of this.
Right, exactly. I tell people, so in the style of meditation that I teach people, which, you could say it's a style, but over time I've really had to explain meditation in so many different ways just to help people. It's like many roads can lead to sort of the same end result, but the mantra is always the key piece. The other, key piece is knowing that when you see this, this zen and the white light, that's not real. I tell people, I'm like, that's drugs, I guess. I don't know, because it's meditation when you first start out. It's just like learning a new language, if someone was like, okay, Mandarin 101 day 1, and then I'm all of a sudden supposed to be speaking to, ambassadors and all this in a week, you're not going to be a pro at something new until you give it a chance.
True. Wow. And what I really like about what Don's saying is, it's better if you learn it right than if you, I'm not going to say learn it wrong because that's subjective, but you learn it in ways that don't either benefit you as much or aren't easy to learn. And I think that's what I really like about what Don's breaking down the meditation about.
I really appreciate that, because people feel they're doing, I meditate, and then they tell me about the guided meditations that they listen to, which beautiful that you are out there thinking about, okay, it's necessary for me to get into this meditative space. That's great, but I would just say, if you really want the profound benefit that you will get from meditation, you've got to do a self-guided meditation. The difference is enormous. And yes, many people do not want to do a self-guided meditation because it's really challenging.
Yeah.
But that's part of the process.
That is part of the process. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, which Don said perfectly, is you're not going to learn Chinese and speak to a native Chinese person on the second day.
No.
So meditation, it's a practice, just like martial arts, just like me, YouTubing. It's all a process.
It is all a process. And I think in the age of like now, immediately, buy now, okay, now, that has really programmed us to believe that nothing that takes time is worthwhile. And also that things shouldn't take that long, because everyone feels so pressured to be something now.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you don't have any appreciation for, a week-long process, You're not going to become, super zen or reach nirvana in a week.
Yeah.
It might take several lifetimes.
Exactly. It might take I was going to say it's going to take a lifetime, but you beat me there. You said several lifetimes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's that thing of, when it comes to meditation, I just tell people, when you're meditating, know that all the thoughts, are normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally fine if your thoughts are there. That is part of it. That's part of our duality. We have the non-thinking and we have the thinking. But when you first start, you may feel like all you're doing is thinking. And that's okay. Really, the first part is just becoming, attached to the idea of sitting to meditate. Really, that's the first piece. I mean, if you'll make yourself sit down to meditate every day for 20 minutes, that's the first part of the battle.
Exactly. Building the hobby, building the practice or whatever.
Yeah, getting that new habit integrated into your day. So I always tell people when you first start meditating, you really want to couple the new activity with a pre-existing one. So when people wonder, well, when do I meditate? And I say, in the morning. They're like, when in the morning? Make sure you're meditating right after you do something that you always do. Or I like to tell people, do your meditation right away and then have coffee as your reward if you're a coffee drinker or something like that.
And it makes sense from a neuroscience perspective. I'm just totally doing a little follow-up, but I think, you have these patterns already in your brain. It's easier to be like, okay, I have a pattern, how do I build on it? Than to be like, let's create a pattern anew.
Exactly.
So like you said, like for example, I get up and then maybe I make breakfast. So it's like, after I make breakfast, instead of eating immediately, I'll meditate for 5 minutes. Like I just thought about that. That could be a way to get me to meditate again.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say, if we were talking about you integrating it into your natural schedule, you find the 2 activities that you find yourself always doing in the morning, and you wedge the meditation in between the 2. You sandwich it in, and then you know exactly what goes in the middle. I do this, I meditate, then I do this. That way, you're not trying to like, oh, let me tack on meditation right before I XYZ thing. It won't happen.
It won't happen.
I always really encourage people to do it first thing in the morning, or get up, have a little bit of water, something like that. I feed my cat, and then I sit down to meditate, because I know that those are the activities I do. I meditate, and then I write in a gratitude journal. But that's another practice.
That is a great practice. Yeah. When I took positive psychology back in college, they had us write a gratitude journal too. I never kept up with it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's super.
Yeah.
Well, I would ask you, what happened? Why did it fall off? Where did your gratitude go?
I think, especially with like gratitude and stuff like that, maybe in general, I'm very thankful. So I don't feel like I need to go out of my way to be like thanking this and thanking that. I think every day I'm pretty appreciative of everything. Yeah. Like this space we're in, every day I walk here and I'm just like, wow, right? I'm so glad I'm here.
Yes.
But I get what you mean. Maybe I should just write that down once in a while. Be like, I'm thankful. It's like a different part of the brain, a different sense. It reinforces
That's right.
it.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So I love to use, there's a journal called the 5-Minute Journal. Mm-hmm. And the guys who created it really went through all of the positive psychology, science, and just sort of gleaned it all down to this essence of 5 minutes. So it's 5 minutes in the morning. You will have 3 gratitudes. You will have 3 things that make your day great. And then 2 affirmations. And then what you're doing is you're digging into your gratitude, and so you have this really elevated energy coming up in your mind. And then the next thing that you're writing in that elevated state is, what am I going to do today to make today great? So you're imprinting your day from that really positive state, and then you're affirming it with those 2 affirmations. So there's real science there. And that's why I really, I'm not a journaler. I tell people the 5-minute journal is for non-journalers. Yeah. But it works wonders. And the science, once again, is there. The science of gratitude is just as profound as the science of meditation. So definitely encourage people to think about that. And then at night, there's 5 more minutes, and it's 3 amazing things that happened today, and then 2 things that would make tomorrow even better. So what it does is it's imprinting your subconscious again just before you're sleeping. And it can really, really have an amazing impact on your dreams. I have a client, for example, who suffered from nightmares her whole life. And she started meditating, but when she really noticed the difference is when she started doing this gratitude journal. And honestly, I was personally blown away, because she said, my dreams have totally changed. Wow. And she's like, my husband would like to thank you. Wow. As well as herself. So the gratitude is equally important.
Wow. So, hey, Positive psychology. This is in action. You know,
Yeah.
when I'll be honest. Another reason I didn't continue with the gratitude journal was because I'm like, you know, this is all academia. I think I got to be in that course. You know, like, oh, I got to be in the course. How much of this is tested? But hey, this is you know, her clients have tested this stuff.
And you know, that's the thing. I only recommend tools and practices that I see science behind, and I also am able to track it over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this collection of data points that I'm able to see, well, they started here and now they're here. And so those are two of the things that I always recommend everyone do. In fact, anyone who wants to work with me, it's a requirement for you to be a meditator. The gratitude is important as well. I definitely recommend that, but the meditation is critical.
I see. And I'll just do a follow-up on affirmations, which is that they do work. There was a few, maybe 1 or 2 months in 2012, I was in LA for a little bit, and then I left. I went back home, and it was a really stressful time.
Yeah.
But every morning, I would say affirmations to myself. In fact, I had this app where you would say the affirmation and it would turn into a song. And so I would listen to myself affirming myself in a song. And it helped. I felt like it, if anything, it made me, one, more positive, but two, it raised my confidence slightly. Because every day in the morning and then right before an interview or something, you know, I would listen to affirmations. I just find random affirmations online. And so affirmations do help.
Affirmations are very, very helpful. And once again, if you couple it with the gratitude, what am I going to do to make my day great? And then you affirm that, you're well on your way to an amazing day.
I agree.
I'm really interested in the app. I would love to be able to try it and recommend it to my clients.
Maybe it's called Songify. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah,
I
you
forgot.
have to just once you get back into your gratitude and your affirmations,
And
you
then
just have to let me know, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to follow up with you on
Yeah,
that.
definitely follow up.
Yeah.
So, guys, this is such a great conversation so far. I'm learning so much. So, I like your type of coaching. Your type of, you know, there are a lot of people when they hear life coach, like, oh yeah, the guy who like hangs out with you, tells you a bunch of stuff, and then like 2 hours later you forget.
Right.
But I feel like she's helping you build real legit practices, and these are practices that are not based on solving a certain task. Because the problem with certain life coaches is that, okay, so a lot of people see life coaches because they have problems with stress or they have problems with dating or something. So it basically your mind classifies it. All these practices only this. But it seems like what you're doing is you're like, okay, no. We're going to just build these habits no matter what you're going through. So that way these habits help you for anything in the future.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely correct. Why try to resolve one little tiny issue or 20 issues when you could resolve the root?
Yeah.
And when it gets down to really, you know, at the end of the day, people are either in a state of fear or they're in a state of what I would say is love or courage. You know, so they're in that place where they're making decisions because they're afraid or they're making decisions because they're confident. And all of the techniques that I teach my clients, all of the training that I do with my clients and the discussions that we have are to really resolve that as the one main root. You know, there are a few things kind of off of that root, but if it's all of these, you know, that you can there's millions of issues that you could start trying to address. But if you have those inner basics, you are going to be able to grow and expand on that, and you'll be able to handle anything that comes your way. That's why meditation is so powerful.
Agreed. And this is one thing I give my dad credit a lot. He tried very hard to get me to meditate starting when I was maybe in middle school. So he knew the benefits of it. He tried to build it. But the problem is he's my dad. So it's like, you know, I'm like, I see you not Zen all the time. So when is this going to work for me, right?
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing. And I feel like it's why we need someone to reflect something back to us in our lives in a positive way that's not, you know, a partner or a parent or someone.
Or even a friend.
You know, I come from a place where I want you to be your most optimal self. There's no end goal for me except that you are your most optimal self. And I can show you tools that will allow you to go in that direction if you want to. That's why, by and large, you know, I tell people, I'm an advisor. You know, I say life coach, people understand that. But really, I give advice. You can take it or leave it. But if you want to do the work, I will support you until you're in a place where you feel empowered and you don't need me.
Exactly.
That's the point. I want you to feel empowered to do the work that maybe other people have tried to push on you, you know. But I would just say we do work as a team, but at the end of the day, it's you really picking up some of the basics that you kind of always knew you should do, but no one really mirrored it to you in a way that felt right, that it really resonated, that it clicked. And I feel like that's one of my skills or specialties is I'm intuitive enough to sense people's energy, to give them the information in a way where they can really absorb it. There's no point in just kind of throwing information out there when it's just hitting a wall. It's like, I'm not here to talk so that I hear myself. I'm here for you.
Yeah. And that's great. That's awesome. And it aligns with my channel too, because my channel's the same. I'm like, I just want everyone to learn. I want everyone to learn. You know, I say stuff. If you don't agree with me, disagree with me, but I don't want to change anyone on my channel. You know, this is me. And, you know, you're the same. It's like, you know what works for you, and you know what works for your clients. Bam. People who come see you, you give them some knowledge, you give them some things they could try out, and then...
Exactly. And, you know, before a session, I say, pick 3 or 4 topics that you know need a shift in your life. If you have a block, if you have these old patterns, this stagnant thinking, whatever it is that you know is causing a problem, you got to be honest, be vulnerable, really dig in, make a lot of really good notes, and then people come into the session and then they're ready to really dig into those topics. And you know, I go right in. You know, this isn't one of those, a lot of hand holding and fluff. I'm like, we're going to go right into what your problem is.
Wow.
Because the point is to be in a space where you're not being judged. That I'm holding space for you in a way that I care about this end result. I'm very invested in that. But you have to know that, you know, it really is a partnership, and I expect certain things from you, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to certain things for, you know, whoever I'm working with. So that way we can really get in, we really do the work, we look at real issues. So by the time you're leaving, you have homework, you're going to be meditating, you know, but you're also going to be able to know that you are taking small steps towards really big change.
Yeah. And I talked about this with he's an Australian life coach, and we said the same thing. A lot of times people even refuse to take the smallest step, but take the first step. Jordan Peterson even talked about this once. He was advising a client who, you know, she had diabetes or something, and it was like weight problems and everything. And he said, look, just try this one thing. All the soda you drink, just substitute it with diet. And finally she did, and then she got healthier, and she was like, oh my God, just this one thing helped.
Right. It could just be the one thing, because really, when you're wanting to help someone create change, the rational appeal does not work.
Not at all.
So you really have to either be able to share a story, you have to create that emotional space, that emotional connection. I love my clients. I care for them very deeply. They know when they come to see me that I am there to hold space, as we would say, for them. So it's in that space, that's why I say, you know, being vulnerable and being open, and me, you know, I communicate with people really just from my heart. And that's where, you know, I have done my work. And if you want to be in a place where you can help people grow, you have to be doing your own work. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm not your guru, even though I've had people say, Dawn, you're my guru. I'm like, I am definitely not a guru. I am always learning in my sessions. And that's the beauty of the type of work that I do, is I'm always getting something back because I'm always open to that learning.
Yeah. I say the same to all my audience. Like, I learn more from my audience than they think they learn from me. So, yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I find not only if you appeal to people non-logically, but if you can appeal to their spontaneity, it makes it slightly easier. I'm not saying very easy. It makes it slightly easier for them to maybe start new habits. And I'll just tell a personal story. I just started randomly at night experimenting with cooking. It's not like I know how to cook, but I know I need to learn how to cook, because, you know, you can't rely on Whole Foods all the time.
That's right.
So I just, sometimes at night I didn't want to sleep yet. I would just experiment. Yesterday I made an egg over and easy. And I was like, whoa, you know, because I was feeling spontaneous.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if there's a way that society can tap into people's spontaneity more, that could really help people develop new habits.
Absolutely true, because we as humans learn through physicality. We're kinesthetic learners.
Yep.
So when you can do something physically, spontaneously, your brain is all of a sudden like, oh, wait, you disrupt those old patterns.
Yes.
And you're creating a new neural network around that spontaneous action.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it to be very important. There are many times in my sessions where I'll have my clients do something. I've studied medical Qigong, and we learned a lot of these exercises. So I'll have them get up and do something, that is just very unusual for them. There's a couple of, there's something called trembling horse, where you're basically shaking off like a wet dog. There's these different things that when you do that, have that spontaneous movement, all of a sudden you realize like, oh, okay, that felt really good. I'm allowed to do this. Yeah. Because lots of times it's like, we have to be in this rigid little way of doing things. And it's like, no, sometimes you just need to make an over easy egg, or, cooking in the middle of the night, or shake it off.
Yeah.
You need to feel allowed to be spontaneous. We do need more of that, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of musicians, I used to do choir. A lot of musicians, right before the actual performance, they'll go, right?
Yeah.
They'll shake it off too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it frees them up so they can not feel judged on stage and actually perform.
Absolutely, it's an amazing technique. It works very well, whether you're going out on your audition, whether you're going to your interview, whether you're going to, be out on stage, whatever it is, being able to shake off that excess energy, because what's happened is you're going into fight or flight. You've got a lot of cortisol in your body. So you've got your mind is running, but your body is standing still. So to be able to shake it all off, you're really shaking off this excess cortisol, and you're allowing yourself to kind of calm down and really be out of your head and really be more into your body. I tell people all the time, even just push your feet into the floor.
Ooh.
Just noticing your feet shifts your awareness from your head to your feet.
Sure.
That's something that people don't even think about.
I'm doing it right now.
Do it right now. It's just like pushing. You can even if you are standing, you can imagine that you're just pushing and you're pulling this big tear all through the floor, this big rip. And with that visual and doing that, you're not thinking at all. You're just pushing.
Yeah, exactly.
Noticing your feet.
Yeah. Wow.
Super helpful. Those physical little send-offs of that type of energy, very helpful to make a shift.
Agreed. And the final epilogue to my story from last night was that because I just randomly decided to try to make an egg and I did it, tonight I'm going to do it again. See, that's the beauty of spontaneity. You do something, and even if it didn't work, I probably would have tried it again.
Right.
But the beauty is, actually, it kind of didn't work. One of the eggs almost broke a little, so like some of the juice came out.
Oh, okay.
But like you do something, and you didn't fail completely. It's so easy because you had nothing invested in it, right? That's the part of spontaneity. But it yielded something. I'm thinking logically, of course, but it yielded an ROI that was a little higher because you started at zero. You had nothing invested in it.
Right.
That's the beauty of spontaneity. So tonight, I'm going to go and try to make an even better over an easy egg. Maybe I'm going to go over medium this time.
Right, exactly. You've just opened the door for possibility. Yeah. Because until you push the door open a little, that door's closed. Now you have potential. Yeah. Who knows? You may be some sort of egg master.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe I'll start making breakfast. I already make breakfast every day, but now I'll actually have varied breakfast instead of just scrambled eggs, which is the only type of breakfast I make.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, okay, of course, you can like break some eggs, but can you, make this egg where the yolk is intact? Can you do this? Can you do this? Those are the things. It's like, who knows? You may have a cooking session on here one day.
Yeah. Maybe I'll create Jerry Cooks and you'll be my first guest on Jerry Cooks.
I love it. Well, I love eggs, so let me know. I'm all about that.
Do you cook?
I do cook, actually. I worked in many restaurants back in the day.
So you're a good cook.
I do understand. Right. I've watched many chefs how they do it, and I feel like it's it's a way to be very present. Especially if you're, chopping with a really big knife. It's a very good idea to stay very present. But what I also did was I made myself learn how to chop with my left hand. I'm right-handed.
Oh.
Yeah, so these are other things that I teach my clients as well. And when you're thinking about, like, I want to do something new, kinesthetic learning, just switching it up. Try, if you do use a mouse, try using it with your opposite hand.
I've done that.
Try, I'm not saying like try to write necessarily, but chopping or cooking. So like when I'm sauteing, I will actually, now I'll use my left hand. Even if I'm like washing my dishes, I'll make my left hand do it. Try brushing your teeth with your left hand.
I've tried that before. I can't. It's hard.
So
it's so hard. But you do get different grooves.
You do.
It's like, so you probably are cleaning parts of your teeth that you usually don't if you only use your right hand.
Exactly. Now you think about that, and what then would you be cleaning in your life if you try something another way?
Exactly.
This is the whole point. It's just do something different. Even if you're, I don't know, you're waiting somewhere and you're kind of like standing on one foot a little, you're doing something just a little bit different. Put your phone down, do something that's just a little bit out of your comfort zone, something a little bit different. Lots of times when I'm actually waiting for clients on 35, I will not look at my phone. I just sit there and I just let myself kind of like send out vibes for everybody, kind of like hold some space, get into that space where I'm getting prepared for my clients. But, just not even being on the phone, that is such a huge different thing to be doing. Absolutely. And I feel like there's times where people are like, what is she doing?
What's she doing? Just sitting
there. What is she doing?
Yeah.
She's just sitting. She's not doing anything. This whole culture of busy.
Yeah.
It's really just one of those. It's just it's a moment to kind of take a stance against that, even if it's for 5 minutes, to say, everyone, it's fine. Put down your phones. Let's have 5 minutes of nothing. Agreed. Because in that you have this beautiful reset.
Yeah. What I used to do in 2016. So I was not yet fully employed yet. So in 2016, sometimes I just go to one of the Japanese markets. I used to live around 2 Japanese markets. And I just get a tea and do what I used to do when I was young, because my hometown in Chengdu, China was known for just sitting around drinking tea. I just sit and drink tea for 2 hours. I just sit there in the store. I mean, they had a sitting area. I just sit there and drink tea. And since they're Japanese, they understand the culture. They looked at me like, hey, that guy's here again, sitting drinking tea. A lot of people like walk by and they'd be like, what is this guy doing? He's not eating. He's kind of sitting there drinking tea.
Yes.
But that does help. It's like a different type of help. It helps ease anxiety in a way, because you sit there at first, you're anxious, but eventually you face it. You're just like, yeah, I'm anxious. Oh, well, whatever. That's life. And then by the end of that 2 hours, you're not anxious anymore. You're just like, okay, all right.
This is what I do, because the mind adapts that quickly to change.
Yeah.
And even though people feel like, oh, I've always been this way, just like you're saying, sit down, have some tea, sit there, don't have your phone. Your head will not explode. The world will not stop spinning.
Yeah.
Just give it a try, because like you said, you face your anxiety, and then eventually it went away.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the beauty. Sometimes we have such a fear that it impedes us from actually taking that first step and, making those eggs, or sitting with that tea, or starting our meditation.
Yeah, very true. And the other thing I wanted to say, especially for people who have glasses, which, by the way, Dawn and I have very similar glasses.
Yeah, look at this.
Funny.
Yeah, right?
We're like
great
buddies.
minds.
But one thing that I've noticed for people with glasses is take off your glasses once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
It helps so much.
Yeah, absolutely. The world looks very different.
Yeah, and because, especially if you're nearsighted like I am, when you take off your glasses, you let your other senses function more.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and I really like that you're bringing that up, because I have such a gratitude for having such bad eyesight, which my eyes have been going bad since I was probably like 9 or 10.
Yeah, me too.
And you're exactly right. To the experience that you get to have when the world goes fuzzy, is really, really amazing. Yeah. So interesting. There's definitely times where I will definitely take a little walk, not too far, without my glasses, just in case people are like smiling and then I can't see them and I can't smile back. But doing that, I totally agree. It's really important to allow your other senses to take over at times, because what am I missing if I only am relying so heavily on my eyesight? Exactly.
And humans are, granted, the eyes are the most most developed out of all our senses. You know, we have a whole occipital lobe back here for vision, but that doesn't mean your other senses aren't important. So I do exactly what you do. Sometimes I put my glasses here.
Yeah.
So if I feel like someone's looking at me or waving to me, I put it on.
Right? Yeah. Just to not stare at them blankly.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's definitely, if your eyes are, bad enough, it's definitely an issue if you're walking around too long without them off.
Absolutely. And the other thing, another blessing in disguise for people who are nearsighted is when you take off your glasses, because everything's blurrier, you're doing an eye exercise. So because our screens, or if we're reading, this is the focal length, and your eyes aren't meant for this. So if you take off your glasses, even me looking at you now, now I'm changing my focal length. So I'm exercising my muscles.
Oh, yeah. Actually, yes, I totally see that. That is fascinating.
So, and that, I think, this is just my hypothesis, but this is a reason why people who put on glasses, let's say when they start and they're only -1, they just can't take them off anymore. Because it's like you put it on and then your eyes get used to not those muscles, those ciliary muscles that contract your lens, they get used to not working anymore.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's almost like people who put on glasses, even if they're a kid, you have to remember, okay, like if you need to see the board, put it on, but like when you're playing with your friends and you it's not like you need to see like the little letter on their shirt.
Right.
Don't put them on because your eyes need to gaze. That's where our eyes were meant to do.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. And that's one of the things that I love about being able to like go into really huge open spaces, being out in the desert when, you can just like see for miles.
Yeah.
To be able to have that sense of gazing, that sense of perspective to just look out and see. Yes, doing things like that are super important for our perspective. And, not to bring it all back to meditation, but as a meditator, when you are, sitting every day, you're actually building up your ability in your prefrontal cortex to see more connections or to perceive more clearly. So whether that's an idea of like inner gazing or external, you're able to see more of these connections in a much more compassionate but rational way. So it's kind of, going into meditation is sometimes like taking your glasses for the external off so you can have an inward look.
Agreed. And I'm pretty sure, and I will find studies to back this up, but people who meditate probably have higher rates of neurogenesis and they grow new neurons faster. So I'm pretty sure there's science backing that up. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure people who meditate, who are very mindful, allow your brain, that sounds like your mind and your body are dual, but you basically give your brain more resources to grow neurons and rebuild faster.
I feel like there's science to back that up. I mean, there's just a profound amount of science for what meditation does. It definitely slows down aging. So I'm thinking with that, regenesis, that there's something there in that neurogenesis based on, the style of meditation that you're doing and the duration, things like that. There must be some science on that. I feel like it. I feel like my brain is definitely, there's things that have shifted where I'm like, wow, okay, I'm able to absorb information so much faster or more efficiently. All sorts of things that I notice for sure. My intuition. I mean, your intuition when you're a meditator just goes through the roof. It's really incredible.
It's very true because part of meditation is not rational, right? So you learn, I was talking with another guest the other day about a lot of times humans are guilty of sort of the bifurcated argument. You're like, you're either this or that. But that's not the case. And what I mean by this is a lot of people are like, your mind's either logical or emotional. No, there's other ways the mind thinks. And part of instinct, part of intuition, it's not really rational, it's not really emotional. It's like other senses. And I feel like mindfulness, meditation, helps you develop the other parts of the brain that aren't just rational or emotional. Because your brain, there's so many layers. It senses and interprets different ways, and a lot of times non-consciously.
Absolutely. Once again, absolutely. I mean, the brain is the final frontier. People talk about space. They talk about the oceans. It's our brain. Because as you said, there's so many ways it processes, it's seeing things through all these different filters. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to do something that brings more parts of your brain together?
Exactly. Or allow certain parts that maybe you don't pay attention to talk to you more.
Absolutely. That's, it's like, I want all of the positive help I can get, when it comes to, what I can access in my brain.
Yeah.
And that leads me to another aspect of the work that I do, which is actually hypnosis.
Mm.
So in coupling meditation with gratitude, and then if people are interested in hypnosis, then you have a meditator who can relax a little bit more and allow that subconscious to be open, and then taking in really positive affirmations and statements. It's just really incredible the effect that it has on people.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but to be able to be hypnotized, you have to first get yourself to the state where you're like, okay, I'll trust this person and I will allow this person to hypnotize me. Like, there's a barrier that the person who's being hypnotized has to allow themselves to get past first.
Well, I'll say this. There are definitely some people who are more susceptible, as you might say, to hypnosis, but anyone who can fall asleep can be hypnotized. Because there are techniques that are mimicking what the brain already does or the body actually does right before you fall asleep.
Oh, wow.
So there's a technique that if you can fall asleep, you can be hypnotized.
Wow.
So it's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't do any hypnosis on my first session, just as you're saying. I allow the person to feel more comfortable with me. I don't want them to just feel like, okay, in sleep, right, exactly. So I want it to be maybe the second or third session, and then they're already in a place where they know, sort of, they understand me, they understand the connection, they feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's only if it's something that someone is interested in. I'm definitely not the type of person who's like, you really need hypnosis, let's do this. That really might get a lot of resistance.
Exactly.
But there are some people who, if you've ever seen stage hypnosis, it is so fascinating to see. Some people will just literally, you can get them. There's a thing with eyes looking up. When your chin is down and eyes looking up just a little, there's a technique. And they can go, right into hypnosis. It is really incredible.
Yeah. I remember one time I was at the YouTube space and this stage hypnotist was there, and he did a test to see who's the most successful. Something about how your two hands, how much they move. So he found a girl whose hands just moved like this. Like my hands barely moved. I was probably like this. But he said okay, try to see if you can move your hands a little. And she went like this. So he called her up.
Right.
And then the way he hypnotized her and got her to, somehow it's like he did a bunch of math problems and guessed every number, just because he hypnotized her. And yeah, stage hypnosis is fascinating.
It's fascinating. And the thing is, hypnosis works really well. So anyone who can fall asleep, one, can be hypnotized. But when you have a specific thing that you want to work on, I just write a script that basically, it gives you affirmations around that topic. Like, for example, I have a client right now. She really wants to pass her CPA exam. And so we're working on that. And, we found out other things along the way where it's like, okay, there's maybe a fear or something that's connected to that. So what I will do is I will give her affirmations all around, successfully passing the exam. We never go into any traumas or anything like that. It's just with hypnosis, it gives you the option when you're starting to go into that same pattern or same space. You have the option now with these new ideas that are in your subconscious, you can think about it differently. And so it allows you to create a new behavior based on those affirmations that you've been given while your subconscious is much more open.
I see. So tying it all back, hypnosis is another way of helping your brain develop new habits. Sometimes you can't just rely on your grit or rely on your spontaneity. Sometimes you just need a little extra nudge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And having the courage to say, I want that, I need that, that is huge. That's really important. A lot of people feel like, oh, it's a weakness, or, it's this. I would just say it takes a lot of courage to step up and say, I need somebody to support me through this. We all do. There's not one person running around who doesn't need a little bit of support. We all work with mirroring. So if you don't have anyone mirroring something positive back to you, that's definitely to your own detriment, because you can't be a mirror for yourself.
Exactly. You could try, but it's not going to work.
It's not going to work very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think this was a great conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
What we should do is, for those of you watching, like, if you have any comments, put it in or questions, put in the section below in the comment section. And then, potentially I could bring Dawn back another time. We can answer some of your questions or talk about another topic that Dawn's interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is exactly the type of stuff I love.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this was the majority of your focus, and this is awesome. It's like, I could talk for hours about this.
Well, also, if people want to reach out to me, they can either find me on Instagram. I'm the Well-Grounded Spirit. Or you could also send me an email if you feel like doing that. It's thewellgroundedspirit@gmail.com. And then new website coming soon.
Oh,
but
good.
if you find me in one of those, you can find me in one of those places. I'd be happy to reach out and connect and share more information. Or if you're interested in learning how to meditate, if you're interested in starting a gratitude practice, if you're interested in being hypnotized, we can talk about those things as well.
Absolutely. I will put all those links in the description so you guys know if you guys want to find her.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Another thing I'll do is the professor that taught me positive psychology, I'll send this to her. I'll be like, look, Dawn's implementing, she's in academia. I'm sure she's helped a lot of people advise. So I'm like, look, you should connect with Dawn.
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody wants to get the 5-minute journal, it is a journal, and that's on intelligentchange.com. So those guys are doing really great work over there. The 5-minute journal is super helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, everyone. This was Dawn.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yay!
Dude, thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. This is all the stuff that I love doing, So this is my life every day to some extent. So to be able to,